So my name is Rohit Parchuri. I'm the CISO and Senior Vice President for Cybersecurity at Yext. My first job goes back to my first paying job goes back to me, working as a grocery helper and also behind the cash register, of course, because you have to wear multiple hats. This was in Chicago when I was doing my master's about, I know this dates me, but definitely more than a decade ago. Uh, and I think you asked me, what did I learn? I think quite a few things. And I mean, because that's your first job and you're being exposed to a lot of different elements. So in a sense, when you are exposed to that, you're actually, soaking up like a sponge and you're learning a lot of things. But for me, I think the top of the pile element would be the dignity of labor. I think the reason I say that is it was also so much more instilled in me, within my character so much that I was kind of brought up in that similar space, I get these, from my cultural backgrounds and also, from my parents, of course. And I think that is something I got attracted to also in the job is that especially, in terms of how I should respect the job and also, having, being totally devoted towards the actions that I'm performing. Doesn't matter if it's a menial job, like I was doing back then, or if I'm running a country, it should be the same thing. I think that definitely, hit hard, for me. And I think that actually helped me out, in many different things after the fact. Resiliency and persistence also, I think, maybe not, I was not specifically consciously doing that, but I think it was kind of forced upon me because I have limited options. And I'm like, okay, I got to stay, I got to get the job done, before I can move on. So yeah. Maybe just to provide some context, cybersecurity is a lot of people say this. It's a tough job, right? I think you have to, you're exposed to, just like my first job, you are exposed to a lot of different things, and especially when you're rubbed through the mud, you actually learn things and they stick better to you, just like the mud sticks with you. I think for me, it's definitely been like building the tough skin in terms of especially when you're interacting with your customers or internal stakeholders for that matter, there are going a lot of messages being thrown at you, and I think you just have to be resilient enough and also adaptable enough to figure out like how do you distill that message into something that you can make use of, because ultimately you're, as a cybersecurity professional, you're the one who's reporting the risk, but you're not executing on it, so you need somebody else's help. So you better have a balanced mindset when you're approaching these things. So I think building thick skin definitely was one of it. And I think this was not, again, a conscious decision for me to build that. I think it just happened. It definitely was a happenstance when I was working at ServiceNow back in the day, when we're just two technical professionals who were, trying to do a lot of different things. And I was exposed to all these different things, especially the customer delivery. So that kind of, helped me kind of man up and defend the practice because nobody else would, and I just have to do it myself. So yeah, so that's my approach to security. I think not just security for that matter. I'll definitely come to security, but I think any business that you do, any profession that you're in, everything is, it starts with a human, ends with a human. Just like democracy, right? By the people, for the people, to the people. Like everything is happening because people exist, and everything you're providing is to the people. So I think within that mindset, security should be no exception to that. I think empathy is definitely something I focus heavily on, and I think that this is also something that I've learned over the years, that without that empathy, it's going to get really difficult when you're in a service oriented role. Like I said, it's a pretty tough job, and you could easily lose the focus of that service oriented mindset at times. And I think it's always good for you to bring that back. And when when your core principle is the empathy, then I think, more often than not, you'll actually end up in the right place. Unfortunately, cybersecurity is a very recent happening. The practice has been in existence for about couple decades, but we've only gotten media attention over the past few years. So it's understood that media is completely getting this wrong, and so the public, because everybody's listening to the media, and that's how majority of the information flows into your mind, and that's how your perception is your reality. So your reality is directly coming from those sources. I think CISOs or head of securities, or even people within security, I think media and the external entities typically scapegoat them, especially when there's a compromise. just because they have security in their title. And I'm against that, because now you're basically making, an assumption that only security people are working for security stuff, which is not true. Security is everybody's job. We are essentially bringing up things or bringing up risks that we think we have to deal with collectively, but it's very nuanced. The role itself is very nuanced because you have a consortium of people who have to take the decision. Ultimately, who's executing on it, ultimately building the outcomes is a company's job, not so much just a CISO's job. I think that's what really the public is getting wrong. I think the whole element of ownership and accountability is what I think is one of the biggest blunders that we're seeing right now. I hope this goes away, but I think this there's a lot of education that needs to happen. I think this goes back to empathy, like I was talking about before. I think transparency and trust, element of transparency when it comes to making sure you're non-secretive about things that you're building, and also building the trust, empowering people with the right things, and building trust can go a long, long way. That has to be your core fundamentals before you can even start building the program or building the staff for that matter. And we do that here at Yext. And this is, definitely the strongest factors that I would measure the success of my team before we go about asking favors from other people or asking them to do this versus that. Essentially, this goes back to, security people have a lot of access. And by design, that's the case. And it should be, because like without that access, we wouldn't know what threats we're, trying to handle or how we're putting remediations in place. So I think with more access comes more responsibility. With more responsibility comes, more trust you need to build with the company. I think we better make use of that appropriately. I think we have enough solutions, to be honest with you, enough overlaps between solutions, which I still, I'm taken aback with just that concept, because we just have too many things and we just have too many acronyms flying around. I feel not so much a solution, but I think we just need our practitioners come together so we can create the standardization around building and maintaining the security program instead. I think that's missing. And, for example, like CFO, sometimes a peer of CISO, they have GAP, like generally accountable, acceptable accounting practices. That's a general, that's a very general framework, and that you could use that to help, people understand like where exactly you're in the journey and how you're, changing direction or not. But for security, we have tons of frameworks, right? Every entity body comes with its own framework, and it's very industry specific. It's very market specific. Nothing that knits the common fabric across all these things. I know a lot of people try doing that, but I still feel we're unsuccessful as a discipline within that realm. And I think if I had a wish band, I would definitely hope for something like that. I'll keep it very simple. Fear-mongering techniques are the worst and the biggest mistake you can commit with any leader, not just security, any leader, period, right? Don't try to capitalize on the breaches. Don't try to capitalize on the situations where, you're asking unreasonable favors or asking for certain things from the practitioners when they're in middle of something big. Instead, help out. Like, if you do think your solution is effective enough and efficient enough to, help me mitigate my existing challenge, help out. Like, don't charge, for your platform, just help out, just, give the extending, give a helping hand and, make it happen. I think what that does is it builds the goodwill for me that, you're much more helping, you're much more, empathetic towards my situation that I'm in. And now, when the situation actually arises, I'm going to directly come to you. You don't even have to come to me. So I would also build on that, like do the homework. Like if, of course, the situation would not happen every time, and it should not either. But I think, definitely do the homework before you're trying to approach someone. Understand the industry that they're in, verticals that they operate in, especially the market verticals, and share your perspectives about how and what can be done to improve their security posture. Sometimes you would know, sometimes you don't. That's fine, but present your proposals, but never ever conflate that with your product offering. Your product offering comes second. The business challenges and how you need to remediate that comes first. I'm a very outdoorsy person. I think I need the blood flowing like after my day job. Like you said, it's I wouldn't say completely stressful. I think it depends on how people manage that. But for me, I'm okay. I think I've learned over the years how to balance that out. But that's my easy fix. Like go out, hiking, camping, whatever I can do. Like play tennis, for example. That's something I also do. Um, my little one, I have a 4-year-old, so she keeps me super busy nowadays. So I don't really get to do a lot of that. But I think I'm trying to social engineer her into also taking up my hobbies. So we'll see how successful that would be. Maybe ask the same question in a year's time, and I'll give you a better answer.